Sometimes we think that makes us closer to people, especially in, platonic relationships, romantic relationships. We sometimes think that, oh, I've shared this thing with someone, it brings us closer, but you don't know if you're telling the devil. Hey, y'all, it's your girl, Dr. Nina. And over here, I love to teach from more than just my expertise, but also my experience in order for you all to learn from my history and the things that have really helped me to grow and go, like to be the best that I could possibly be, though I've been through ups and downs. Y'all know that. But I also want to make sure I hear from you, especially in today's video where I'm talking about those 15 things that I know now at 40 that I wish I knew in my 20s and 30s that would have helped me along the way if I knew them just a little bit earlier, but I learned them and I'm here today successful, happy, and thriving. And I want to hear from you all down below. What are some of those things that you have learned? Remember, the more engagement, the more people that join in this community, and they can learn from you as well. Make sure that you check out the description link so that you can find all the items that I mentioned. Now let's dive in. This one is personal. Stop wasting your time trying to get a bunch of people to approve of the dream that you have for yourself. I used to do it all the time. So hear me out on this. A lot of times what we do is we dream shop and we dream test. We go around and we ask different pods of people in our lives who may not even be highly connected to us or may not even know us, whether or not they think we have what it takes to get something done. Okay, so an example, just out of the blue, going around asking people, do you think I could go to school to be an astronaut? First off, do you think you can go to school to be an astronaut? You've done really well in school, you've done well at sciences, you've done well in math, you've done all these other things, and you've prepared yourself for a good foundation in order to get there. But then you're going to ask people that have certain insecurities, they don't even have the same interests as you, and they don't know your strengths or your weaknesses, so they don't even know how to feed into you. And what happens is they end up projecting a lot of their shortcomings on you. You've asked people who do not invest in you, who do not care about your well-being. And I'm not saying that you should just have yes men or people who just say that you can do whatever you want to do. I'm talking about going to people with sense who definitely see you for who you are. And sometimes you have to hide that dream from others as well. There are dreams that I have now that have come to fruition that I didn't share with anyone. I just did it. You know why? Because sometimes your eyes are so wide that it can scare other people, especially if they've never invested in themselves at the same level. So watch who you feed your dreams to. Watch who you give that privilege to, because it can change the course of your future. In your single era, spend time loving yourself instead of finding someone to love. It will come. Now, I know it's a lot of discourse about, what you should do and how old you should be when this happens and whatever. Speaking as a person who focused on themselves for most of their lives, thank God, and didn't even get married until I was 38, baby, love will come, okay? It will find you. It will beat down your door, okay? Or be like my husband and move from where you are to make it work. Do you hear me? You do not have to chase the dream of being with someone, especially when you love yourself. I had someone tell me, a mentor long ago, be busy about the works that keep you good, that keep you working, that keep you fulfilled. And in that, you will find the things that you actually want from other people. A lot of us haven't spent enough time single with ourselves. We spend single life messing around with a bunch of people who, ain't adding to our palate and getting us anywhere. And so one thing I'm going to say is, yes, desire to go out on dates and do different things, or even just be single or alone. But during that time, spend it loving and dating yourself. Spend it knowing what are your highs, what are your lows, what do you expect, what do you want, how do you feel love, how do you express love, how do you feel your best. Do some self-care, do some things that feed into you, educate yourself, love yourself, figure out what your trade is, your craft is, go to school, do some stuff with yourself, okay? A lot of times we spend all that time trying to figure out someone else that can make us whole when it's us the whole time. So then when someone comes in and we expect them to love us, we don't even know what to show them there is to love, okay? Because we haven't spent enough time with ourselves. So I'm going to ask you, do you love yourself enough to want someone to love you, to feel like you are deserving of the utmost and top respect? If not, go back to the drawing board and spend some time by yourself. That single era is everything. And if you're searching for love, a lot of times you find problems. I know you might be in your lazy girl or lazy guy era, but procrastination is the stiller of life. The years from your 30s to 40s are the payoff from the work that you did in your 20s and 30s, and also your 40s and 50s and so on. So don't waste the time. Now, I think a lot of people hear that and say you gotta be hustling all the time or getting it all the time. No, I'm just saying make use of the time. When I tell y'all you will blink and be 40, that's how I feel life happened. But I'm glad that I made good use of the years. Now, even when I had failures when I was younger, I decided and I determined that I was going to create a plan that was going to help me to be my definition of successful. And that didn't matter if it wasn't someone else's definition. Now, some can say, oh, you were just mature, or you blah, blah, blah. No, it's called get rich or die trying, honey. Every time you have the chance, make something work for you instead of always making it work for other people. I can promise you, no matter how young or how old you are, we can all look back at times that we spent time on things that were frivolous, that did not help us at all. And I'm not saying don't take a break. I'm not saying you always got to be on the grind. Absolutely not. I love self-care. I love doing for me, but I also love reaching goals because that's also self-care. I also love crushing what I say I'm going to do. I also am proud of myself for going to school, finishing. I'm proud of myself for creating networks. I'm proud of myself for still developing my personality and being able to network with people who are different from me, the same as me, live in my neighborhood and beyond. Guys, you definitely have to make sure that you are focused on making use of the time you have. Yes, give back to you, but you know what I'm talking about when I say wasting time. We waste time watching a bunch of TV and a bunch of people that we say are silly and things like that. And I do too sometimes. We got to have some time to kick back, but every day ain't a time to kick back. If you're not crossing off goals off your list, at least a few per year, you might need to reevaluate the time you're spending. I had to look at my notes and chuckle at this one, but everyone doesn't deserve to understand or know your traumas. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes we like to give these traumas away, and in our 20s and 30s, sometimes we think that makes us closer to people, especially in, platonic relationships, romantic relationships. We sometimes think that, oh, I've shared this thing with someone, it brings us closer, but you don't know if you're telling the devil sometimes. You need to make sure that you are figuring out and using discernment with those you tell information to, and some things you can hold sacred, near and dear to yourself. Some of those things we only discuss in therapy. There are some things I haven't said out loud to anybody but my therapist. Some things, if they are affecting a relationship or there are things that are common and should be discussed, that's important to share with the right people. And I think a lot of times when we hear that you should never share those parts of yourself or be transparent, that's because people have been burned. I have been burned too. And sometimes you got to work through the burning in therapy, okay? And so really figure out who deserves to know those deepest, darkest secrets from your past, from your childhood, because you don't want anybody to hold things over your head that you are moving on from and healing from. I've had people that have even tried to throw my adoption or my abandonment or other things in my face, when what they don't realize is I've worked on those things. I understand those things. But what that taught me was not everybody needs to know all of my truths. Not everybody can be protective of me as I am of myself. And I can't expect for anybody to protect me like I protect me. So be very careful with who you share things and to what degree. It is okay to protect yourself. Y'all, I know now that developing healthy coping skills and conflict resolution and management is really essential for my life today and has always been. And I didn't always have healthy coping abilities. I mean, it was why I was 100 pounds overweight. It was why I had to lose all of that weight at one point, because I was eating emotionally or eating wrong or eating as a crutch. There are so many different things that come out in our behaviors, and it's essential for us to learn why or get to the root of certain behaviors, good or bad. Why do we do them? Where do they come from? Do they come from our, childhood, from our families? All of those things really do make a difference. What has really helped me to work on that is staying in therapy. Y'all know that I have told you before that I've been in therapy for like the past 11 to 12 years. Furthermore, before that, I had gone to therapy as well in my younger years. therapist. And I found that that has really enriched my life. It's also helped me to fight certain things that come up, with different phases in life. One of the more recent things that we have worked on in therapy is really me changing, developing, and growing throughout my life. I went from being single, classified as single, until I was 38 years old. And now I've been a wife and a mother now. And one thing that I can say is even those roles, though beautiful for me, they came with challenges that I didn't know whether or not I was ready for. And I know sometimes I can seem very sure of myself, and I am, because I use and pull from other situations that have been difficult for me to move forward. But I can tell you, a lot of times therapy has kicked in, and my therapist, knowing me and understanding me and having the skills to help me develop, really has helped me to see myself in those roles and be my own definition of who and what I am. And y'all know I provide services. I'm a licensed clinical professional as well. And I understand that those things do help us grow, even when we don't always see the value in them. And that's why I'm always happy about certain companies that provide those types of services, like BetterHelp, who is the sponsor of today's video. They connect you with therapists who are trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site and you can use my link, betterhelp.com/BeautifulBrwnbabydol. You answer just a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a professional with years of experience helping people with struggles like yours. What I love is the convenience and the ease of use. You can do it all from your phone or computer, via phone call, video chat, or messaging. However you feel the most comfortable. It's the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched with a therapist, usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you with a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your home. Visit betterhelp.com/BeautifulBrwnbabydol or choose BeautifulBrwnbabydol during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Now, boy, this one hit different for real. In your 20s and 30s, you often think that the friendships that you have will last you a lifetime. I need you to know that they all will not. They're not designed to. And I think knowing that earlier, it helps you to be able to release those situations more easily. And what I mean by that is, I think we live in a culture where we're always trying to let everybody go and let everything go. I get it. I've had to let things go too. But you also want to make sure that you're allowing things to naturally take form. Some relationships will naturally separate themselves. You'll go one way, the other person will go the other. Sometimes you will even find that that person was just there for a reason and for a season, whether it was to teach you something about life, help you with a skill, help you network with someone else. I've even had relationships where I ended up meeting another friend through a friend that I'm no longer even close to anymore. That happens sometimes. And I think sometimes we have to set our expectations at a certain space and place, because you can't take everybody, okay? Even on an airplane, you make pit stops sometimes to drop off some people and continue on your voyage. You have to be ready to let some people go. And here's another thing about that. You don't need to announce it all the time. Sometimes, like I said, these things happen naturally. That reason and that season come and it goes, and you'll realize you're not as close to certain people anymore. It doesn't mean you don't bid them well. It doesn't mean that they don't think that you should have life well as well. But you do need to consider the fact that maybe they weren't there for the long haul. Maybe they weren't there for forever, and maybe you're not there for them forever. Everybody changes, you grow and you develop, and you have other desires, other needs, other wants, other networks, and other things that pull you in new directions. That does not mean that that person wasn't important to you at the time they were a part of your life. Remember that. So I had to work on this one through my 20s and 30s in therapy, but just because you think it doesn't make it true. I have to catch my thought process even now. Y'all, we have a system of beliefs, whether good or bad, highs or lows. Sometimes we think we're not pretty enough, we're not smart enough, we're not good enough. And sometimes we think we're okay, we think we're well, we think we can do certain things. But the way we believe and the way we interpret those thoughts can actually foster how we see ourselves. So if we consistently think, I'm not good enough, I'm not great enough, those things start to take form in your life. You also start to allow people to treat you how you think, right? I can tell you one time, one of the worst relationships, I shouldn't even say this, but one of the worst relationships I ever went through. I can remember waking up, and what I mean by waking up is when this person said, I don't believe you even see how great of a person you are and how people treat, how people think of you. Now, mind you, this was a person that treated me not so great, and I was allowing it because at the time, my self-esteem had hit an all-time low. But because I was waking up every day thinking I wasn't good enough, I continued to take the mess from one person. So I was just as guilty. But hearing them say that I never saw myself the way others did, and it really did resonate with me, realizing that I did not think highly of myself while others might have, and I should have started carrying myself more like that, it made me think that I often thought that those negative thoughts of myself were true, but I had to get myself to believe that the positives were true as well. You have to have a good balance of yourself. Be honest with yourself, but also know how to hype yourself up and be very in tune with the positives that you bring to the table as well. You have the right to choose who's in your life, and no one has the right to be in your life unless you want them to be. Now, that one was a big pill to swallow, because a lot of times we're taught no matter family, old friendships, old relationships, all those people have to be a part of our lives. Sometimes we feel like we have to hold on to relationships, no matter how crummy they are, in order to say that we're still connected to certain people. But wake up call, baby. Something that I learned in my, early 30s was that unless I wanted a person to be there, they did not have to be there. Everybody is not meant to be a part of your journey or your life. I said this about the limited friendships. However, this is even different because sometimes we even get into that rut when it comes to family relationships. You can hold people at a distance. You have to practice boundaries. And sometimes the very thought of creating a boundary scares us because we think it will scare certain people away. But I challenge you, what are you losing by having some of those people who violate your boundaries leave your area in space? Some of them will naturally leave. Just like roaches, when you put out certain treatments, they can no longer exist in a certain space. They will naturally move away. You don't have to make an announcement to the roaches. You don't have to tell the mice you're gonna put out traps. Just do it. Put those boundaries up, and sometimes you will find that people will naturally erase themselves from your space, whether friends, families, or foes. I suggest that you really consider who you're letting into your life and why. And is it only to benefit them, or is it benefiting you? And I'm not saying every relationship you have will be transactional, but I know some of them make us sick, and literally sick, in our body and our mind. If that's not benefiting you in any way or keeping you healthy, it's time to let it go. Your lack of planning is not someone else's emergency. Woo, Lord, say it again for the people in the back. I know a lot of times what happens, and I have done this before too, especially in my 20s and 30s, thought that because I was ready to do something, other people should be ready to do it right then. But let me tell you, if you fail to plan, not everyone has to change and switch around their lives or see an emergency in what you want to do or deem important right at that moment. I tell you right now, that will wake you up when somebody tells you, I'm not gonna move faster because you failed to plan. It's the same thing, like I'll give y'all an analogy. When you're at the airport, I've had this happen before, where I'm in line, I got there early, I did my thing, I'm ready, I'm relaxed, and the person behind me is pushing up on me with the wheels of their bag because they failed to get up on time and they about to miss their flight. Okay, you not causing me to get into an accident, fall, or anything else because you didn't plan. Okay, and I've been on the other end of that, especially in my 20s. Well, let me hurry up, you need to move out the way because I'm coming through. No, that's not how it works. That is a way to really learn patience and learn the value of other people's time. Okay. And even when it happens to you, I'm not saying that you have to be ugly to people, but remember that someone else's lack of planning does not mean that you need to be in a rush or an emergency. And if someone's trying to do that with a relationship, with a friendship, with trying to come into your home, with trying to have access to you, it's a no. If you are living in a place where you don't feel valued and you don't feel like you can grow, please feel okay with moving. You are not stuck by cement, okay, to any place, especially if you're single. Y'all, I can tell you the investment that you'll make in movement is going to be much more worth your time. It will also help you to jumpstart certain things that you need to start. Now, I'm not saying run away from trouble or even from the laws, okay? I'm saying if you're in a place where you have made careful decisions and they are not really coming up with growth that you need, especially for the investments that you're putting in. Let's say with work, you're not getting promoted and you've been there for a long time. You've been putting in the work and documented it. You are not growing spiritually. You cannot find the church home that you would like to have. The networking and friendships are not working out for you and you don't have support. It's time to move. Sometimes movement brings about growth. It can bring about scariness, but a lot of times the investment that you're putting in will go a lot further elsewhere. Even if it costs you a lot of money to move, you'll make that money back. Baby, time will still pass you by if you don't use it. You know what really helped me to learn this? Is when I almost flunked out of college my first year. I told y'all that I ended one of the semesters with a 0.89 GPA. That's neither here nor there, but it is here. What I learned is I could spend my time not learning how to grow and not learning how to study. And the time was still going to pass me. The semester was still going to end and I was either going to fail out or I was going to perform. When I started to think of things like that, I started to learn that it was important for me to make investments in the time that I had before me because it's still going to go past. You know, when you're younger, and I think something that taught me this too, if you fall and hurt yourself and you look up at a clock, the clock don't stop ticking. It still be going. Though it seemed like time stopped, especially if you got the wind knocked out of you. Guess what? The time is still going to go past. And either you are going to spend the time making a resolve or helping the problem or coming up with a solution, or you're going to fall by the wayside and time is still going to pass you by. When you start to think like that, you'll know that your time is more valuable. You'll also stop letting people cheat you out of your precious time. So it's not just about you. It's also about how you're allowing others to treat you and show up in your life as well. Oftentimes there are things that are completely out of our control, no matter how hard we try. Oh, and that is fine. Look, y'all. That hit me hard in my late 20s and early 30s. I would try so hard to make things work. Even if they were not working out, surprises would come and things would happen. And instead of focusing on the abilities that I had in order to move through that situation, I would sometimes give up and stay in the same spot. I can admit in some ways I was immature. And I would take those things so harshly, so roughly. I wouldn't allow myself to grow through those situations that I could not control because I wanted to just control them. But newsflash, you do not know everything. You won't know all the answers. But until you exercise the muscles that you never had, they won't get strength. So a lot of times what we have to do is get through the uncomfortable in order to find comfort. It was a lot of the detours that happened in my life that I was not aware would happen that have really brought me into who I am today, that have built my professionalism, my character, my ability to make friends, my ability to have a life that I'm proud of. Okay, if I hadn't have gone through those things, the unknowns, I wouldn't be here today. So though I lost over 100 pounds in my early 20s, something I wish I had to put on that early on is fitness is just a sustainable lifestyle. It's not something you just do when you get fat. You know why? Because you hit your 30s, you hit your 40s, and you realize if you had just kept up with the process, it wouldn't be so hard at the moment. So I'm happy that I developed those skills, but I wish I had have understood earlier the fact that it will help you to do things that are sustainable early on. When you do that, you won't think of this as just a tool you use whenever you feel like you should, because you start to see a belly that you don't like or legs that you don't like. Now you work on them. No, continue to be about that business in order for you to stay as healthy as you possibly can, because your health is your wealth. As you get older, that's something you can't buy. The richest man cannot buy their health. They might be able to find ways to be more comfortable, to see more doctors, but when the health is shot, it's shot, okay? And so making sure that you do things that are sustainable about your fitness and nutrition will help you to live a longer, more healthy and rewarding life. Ooh, accountability is key. And I think a lot of these crazy people on the internet like to use accountability as a word that is scary to people. But let me tell you something. If you're only accountable to yourself, you will always fail to do the things that you actually need to or want want to do. It is important for us to have accountability partners. That's why I like to have mentors. I love to have people that can check in on me and check me when I am not doing or performing the way that I said that I would. It is important that when you put things out into the atmosphere, say that you want to start a business, say that you want to lose weight, say that you want to clean up the relationships in your life that no longer serve you, that someone is around that can hear you say those things, but also check on you and check you when you're not doing the things that move you closer to that. Let's say you want to reduce the amount that you're drinking or engaging in partying behaviors that are not helping you to be fruitful in the business that you want to start. Well, if someone is there to really be accountable to, you'll feel more responsible for making those changes. It's not a scare tactic, but it's something to make you feel like you're responsible for something that you said you want. And when you understand that earlier, you'll also connect with people who make a bigger difference when it comes to you chasing the things and the goals that you want. You'll make sure that you connect with those that you know can really see and understand what it is you're setting out to do and can keep you on the right track, or at least help to assist you. Whew, okay. I think here's another thing, because a lot of us have learned to throw in the towel early, but I think what it is our expectations. And I think if I had learned to manage expectations earlier in my 20s or 30s, then I would find myself in less of these situations. But basically, you're not going to succeed at everything you try, and that's okay. If you master one or two things, that is awesome. Be willing to let go of the other stuff, okay? It's okay. You might learn how to play 5 instruments, okay? But only 1 or 2 of them stick. Great. Make those work. Challenge yourself to practicing them until they become a part of you. You are not going to be great at everything. Perfectionism only tears you down. And for some reason, we have held on to this social media view, even though we've become more realistic and more transparent, but we have really started to hold on to this social media view of perfectionism. And I urge you to know that perfectionism is not real, okay? You are not going to be able to sustain a life where you're perfect at it all. Whether it be a mother, whether it be a father, a relationship, whether it be a work habit or a work life, none of it will always be sustainably perfect. You want to make sure that you hold your mind and know that everything I do, I might get fired 5 times, okay? I might not find the right fit for me until, 5 years down the line. Be willing to allow that to occur and accept all the beauty and the ashes that come from moving through that process. So y'all, I hope y'all have enjoyed today's video. I know I truly enjoyed this. I love these types of videos, and let me know if you like these types of videos, because I love sharing not only my expertise, but my experience. Once again, it's always like this good chat that I know needs to be had. And it's also a reminder to me of things that keep me connected. And make sure that you comment, share this video with someone who can use it, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Beautiful brown baby doll. Peace.